Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. Here I am at the most famous zebra crossing in the world. If you're a Beatles fan, you might possibly recognize this one, complete with the Belisha beacons from Abbey Road, that 1969 album by the Beatles. Well, come on, I got to walk across it myself. You know, pedestrians have priority here. There we go. And as you can see, it's rather popular. If you're planning to drive anywhere fast, I would suggest you divert from here, avoid this route, because there are people all the time posing for photos here. And then the world famous Abbey Road studios are just over there. So let's go and take a closer look. Okay, so the Abbey Road studios were opened by EMI in 1931. And they're used for various recordings. So the King George V recorded his Christmas Day broadcast here. And what year would that have been, the very first one? In 1932 or thereabouts, so just after it opened. It's not live. I don't think even today it isn't live when it's broadcast on the afternoon of Christmas Day, a tradition that carries on with the current monarch, Elizabeth of that name II. There's Abbey Road Studios. So BBC Television was launched in 1936, and in 1938 they began broadcasting from here just a little bit. Now, televisions were ruinously expensive at first, like any new technology. Logie Baird had invented it in 1926 here in London. So it was very, very few people had them during the Second World War. It was only in the 1950s, particularly 1953, the Queen's coronation, that middle-class families began to buy them. By the 60s, working-class families could afford them. In 1970, television here went in colour. But in the Second World War, this place remained broadcasting, and so it was crucial to sustaining morale as well as just broadcasting information, because although very few people had televisions, most people had access to a radio. And then, so after the Second World War, it was used for more commercial ventures. Various films had their backing sound recorded here, bringing in whole orchestras, jazz bands, and so forth. And then albums were made here. Of course, we had LPs, you know, records, those big black record things. I even remember in the early 80s having those things. Then cassette tapes came in, then CDs by the 90s, and that was that. And now we've kind of really gone beyond that, because since they brought in iPods and MP3 players and things like that, and now we just get everything on the internet, just stream it straight to your phone. But 1962, four Liverpudlians came here for an audition. John, Paul, George and Ringo. And now I'm not sure if Stuart Sutcliffe, the fifth Beatle, was still part of them. You may have seen the film Backbeat, came out about 1992, about the Beatle who died just before they hit it big. Now, Ringo Starr was a drummer for several bands in Liverpool, but the Beatles happened to be the one who really hit it big, so he stuck with them. They spent some time in Hamburg and been deported because it was realised that one of them was under 18 and didn't have a work permit. These days, before the United Kingdom was part of the European Economic Community, that's now the EU, people didn't have an automatic right to live and work in other member states. Obviously, we're going back to that situation. Anyway, they were initially the Quarrymen, these four youths who met at that Liverpool College of Art, all born between 1940 and 1943, is that the last one? And they all came down here. And there was famously one song, I can't remember which one it is it the version of Yesterday that actually made it, where John Lennon is saying, oh, that was really bad, we'll have to do that again. But actually, that was the one that became world famous as such a magnificent rendition. But in 1967, they began recording albums here. And in 1969, their album came out entitled Abbey Road, which features that iconic photo of the four of them posing up there on the zebra crossing. So this road is Abbey Road, and yes, there was an abbey here in medieval times. It's long since disappeared. And you can see so many people all over the world come here, keep writing stuff on the wall, leaving floral tributes, don't expect it to go there. So a bit difficult for them to function here. Now, Edward Elgar, the famous classical composer, he composed things here as well, just towards the end of his life. He died in the mid-1930s. I'm just trying to think what he wrote. Nimrod, for example, as in that biblical hunter king, which is a very soothing piece, often played at Remembrance Day ceremonies. Happy birthday, Aurelia, or if you're Romanian, Aurelia. Only Romanians have that name these days. She must be golden. So if you leave any tribute like teddy bears or scarves or flowers, people often do, is quite often taken away. So there we are. We're quite close to Lord's Cricket Stadium, and St John's Tube Station is the nearest tube station to here. And there's the Abbey Road shop, woo, to go there, which is the most measly little corner shop. And it's got no connection with this place. It might sell a postcard or something. We'd be bitterly disappointed. Or the Abbey Road Cafe right there, which isn't full of memorabilia or anything. So unfortunately it's not open to the public, but that is Abbey Road Studio if you're terribly interested. And people come from all over the world because they are avid Beatles fans, as I am myself. So let me see, we should press onwards. So that's this area of London, St John's Wood, you could call it, quite close to Maida Vale Tube Station. So, ladies and gentlemen, please keep supporting me with your donations on PayPal, Patreon, book online lessons with me in history, politics, religious studies, geography, French, anything of that nature, English literature. English is a foreign language. I help people prepare for interviews or edit documents, helping with their coursework, dissertations, theses, and so forth, that translate from French, Spanish, Italian, Romanian, Russian, and German. And book me as your tour guide in London. Anything else I should point out? Oh yeah, bit of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The music was recorded in there. The King's Speech, again, recorded in there. So Colin Firth went there who was portraying George of that name, the 6th, and George the half-dozenth used the same microphone that Colin Firth later used. Okay, I shall switch it off now. Toodle pip.